Next week, Emmerdale is making a very different move. Instead of piling on nonstop scandals or explosive face-offs, the show is airing a special standalone episode that zooms in on three people who've just come through the nightmare of exploitation and modern slavery: April Windsor, Dylan Penders, and Bear Wolf. It might sound quieter on paper, but I actually think this is the kind of episode that sticks with you longer, because the focus isn't what happens next. It's after everything they've been through, how do they even live again? Airing on Friday, 13th of February, the episode places all three in raw, honest conversations, almost like a first attempt at drawing a line under months of control and manipulation. April opens up to her stepmom, Rona Goskirk, and the part that hits hardest is that April truly believes she deserves to be punished for what she did while under the influence of Ray Walters and Celia Daniels. Rona sees it more clearly. April was a victim of manipulation, but April still can't look at herself through that lens. To me, that's one of the most painfully real things about trauma. Sometimes victims don't need anyone else to condemn them because they condemn themselves first. They trap themselves in that brutal question: if I was innocent, why did I do those things? And that's exactly why comfort doesn't land, even when the person loving them is saying the right words. At the same time, Dylan talks to Cain Dingle, who's become a kind of new father figure to him, and Dylan admits he wants to leave the village because he's convinced he's cursed after everything that's happened over the past year. That word sounds superstitious, but the feeling behind it is incredibly common after a major ordeal. Wherever you go, it feels like disaster follows. You feel like a burden. You feel like you ruin other people's lives. So the simplest solution is to disappear. What I'm really curious about is where this conversation pushes Dylan. Will he run to escape his past or stay and learn how to live with it? Bear, meanwhile, meets with his counselor, but he's still trapped inside a massive block of guilt over killing Ray. And the article raises the exact question I'm asking too. How much will Bear actually be able to say when some truths might bring relief, but the emotional cost of saying them out loud can feel unbearable? If I had to make a prediction based strictly on what the article sets up, I don't think 13 February is about fixing everything. It feels more like the first step toward redefining who they are. April learning to see herself as someone who was manipulated rather than someone who deserves punishment. Dylan standing at the crossroads between running away and recovering, and Bear at least having to face the question of whether he's seeking forgiveness or simply trying to punish himself. If the episode plants those three questions properly, it's already doing something meaningful. Alongside that healing-focused storyline, the article also mentions separate clips during the week, and they pull the show right back into its familiar, breathless intensity. In the clip airing Monday 9th of February, Cain Dingle crosses a line in his desperation to save Moira from a long prison sentence, physically manhandling Bear and trying to force him to go to the police station to clear Moira's name. The moment is tense, but Dylan steps in, interrupts the confrontation, and quickly sends Cain packing. That detail really stands out to me because it shows the dangerous side of desperate love. Cain can convince himself he's doing the right thing for his wife, but the second you save someone by trampling someone else's boundaries, you start echoing the logic of control. On the flip side, Dylan being brave enough to stop it suggests he's no longer just scared. He's learning to protect boundaries, and honestly, that's a form of recovery too. Then in the clip airing Wednesday 11th of February, Joe Tate delivers his final ultimatum to the Sugdens and Aaron Dingle. He demands all signatures on the Butler's farm paperwork within 6 hours, including Moira's. If they refuse to sell up, Joe threatens to hand over incriminating footage showing Victoria killing her brother John. This is classic, calculated blackmail. A tight deadline so nobody has time to think, then a secret clamped around everyone's throat because the consequences of exposure are terrifying. And the fact Moira is being dragged into signing while a prison sentence is hanging over her makes the whole situation feel even more suffocating, like every exit has been sealed shut. If I had to predict where this is heading, it feels like the show is setting up a major clash immediately after that 6 hours mark. And the most interesting question isn't just who signs and who doesn't. But who dares to break the deadlock when Joe is holding the one thing everyone is terrified to see revealed? So overall, next week's Emmerdale feels like two emotional layers colliding. One deeply human and painful, where three victims try to speak their truth in search of closure, and one intensely claustrophobic, where Cain crosses boundaries for Moira, while Joe locks the Sugden family into a countdown fueled by blackmail. I love how both threads orbit the same core theme: control, people who were controlled, and people being controlled again, just by a different hand on the strings. If you want me to go live to break down the standalone episode on 13th of February and predict what comes next in the Joe Butler's farm storyline, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. And now I want to hear from you. Do you think April will stop punishing herself? Will Dylan actually leave the village? And will Bear tell his counselor the whole truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll read them all and pick a few strong takes to bring into the live.